You will lose.
What's going on, gamers? This is Colt Eastwood, and I'm sitting here with Dealer Gaming.
What's going on, guys?
Actually, we're not really sitting together, but we're working together over the internet so we can provide a little bit of information, because Digital Foundry is going to be analyzing every one of these games coming out on the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro.
This is very true, and we thought we'd go ahead and throw this video together, a nice collaboration. We're going to throw it up on both channels because we're putting a lot of work into it, and of course a lot of opinions into it as well.
I want you to talk about how the PS4 Pro just provides a resolution bump and maybe a frame rate stabilization. What are the differences we're going to see on Xbox One X games?
Yeah, that's true, and that's one of the main criticisms of the Pro, and I've heard it from Sony guys, I've heard it from the media. As a Pro owner, I think it myself. Pro does a great job of scaling up resolution to a decent extent, but it's not far enough, especially considering on most titles that is about the extent of your upgrade. It's a jump from 1080 to say 1800p on the recent Gran Turismo Sport, for instance. You just don't get enough PC quality features across the board on many Pro games, and that's something the Xbox One X is looking to support, according to developers.
So what kind of benefits are gamers going to see on the Xbox One X besides just resolution and frame rate?
They are going to see dramatic boosts in resolution, anything from 1440p to 4K, and according to Titanfall 2 developers, beyond. That's great, but gamers want more, and 4K textures are a big part of that, something that is not possible on any other console. But there are just a ton of benefits, from anything to more ambient occlusion, to volumetric clouds, and beyond. Tons of PC features making their way over to the console.
Alright, let's get started with the least face-melting game of this holiday, Super Lucky's Tale on the Xbox One X, and his nemesis on the PS4 Pro, Knack 2. Both are 3D 90s style, E-for-everyone platformer adventure games. Super Lucky's Tale will be running at full native 4K 60 FPS on the X at 8.2 million pixels. Knack 2, which has been built by Mark Cerny,
well, isn't that special?
For the Pro, will most likely run at a checkerboarded 1800p at 5 million pixels, according to the last Knack game. This is a difference of 40% compared to the X. To put all of these games into perspective, the pixel gap of 900p on the base Xbox One and 1080p on the base PS4 was 30%, and now 1800p versus 2160p is a 40% difference.
Now let's jump into Respawn Entertainment's very own Titanfall 2. The mech-powered shooter is brought to us on PlayStation 4 Pro at 1440p. Of course, that is noted by Digital Foundry in this clip here.
We did a pixel count on this one, and going from the original game where we had the dynamic resolution which stuck kind of around just above 900p, I guess, or 1000p, this time it seems to be running at 1440p.
Now, of course, PS4 Pro is going to come in substantially sharper than the base PS4 version at 900p, but the real question is, what does Xbox One X have in store for gamers on November 7th when they boot up Titanfall 2? Now, developers have talked about this, and Digital Foundry have a bit of insight for us.
But it has a dynamic scaler that goes above and below 4K. Respawn Entertainment have had it up to 6K apparently. What do you reckon of that one? I mean, I played it, seemed to be like the PC version pretty much.
Yeah, no, it was a step. It feels like a step up from the PlayStation 4 Pro version.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, 1440p on the PlayStation 4 Pro looks good, okay? But when you get developers at Respawn confirming that the game renders as high as 6K resolution on the Xbox One X, it is kind of next level. Keep in mind, 1440p is half of 4K, let alone 6K. So while the game is dynamic, it will not stay at 6K. As a matter of fact, it'll rarely be at 6K. It is still extremely interesting that a console game is doing this.
Alright, I've got a funny comparison. ReCore versus Nier Automata. Both are exclusives. Third-person open-world action games starring a female protagonist fighting robots. And both games have a PC counterpart. Of course, Nier Automata is the better game in this comparison. ReCore runs, according to the new Definitive Edition, at 4K 30, with Nier Automata at 1080p 60. It's absolutely essential for a game like Nier with its hack and slash combat mechanics to be running at 60 FPS. But on 4K TVs, Nier Automata is running at 2 million pixels compared to ReCore's 8.2 million.
In this round, I'm going to compare two of the biggest AAA games on any current-gen console, and that is, of course, Uncharted 4 and Gears of War 4. Now, no matter what you are a fan of, what brand your allegiance belongs to, these two titles deserve respect. They deserve props. They are very well done, well polished, and of course, they look great. Now, most importantly, Uncharted 4 has already gotten PS4 Pro support, and Gears of War 4 is getting Xbox One X support. Let's compare them.
The original PS4 version renders at a full 1920 by 1080, but on the PlayStation 4 Pro we see things bumped up to 1440p instead.
Now, of course, as John from Digital Foundry says, Uncharted 4 on PS4 Pro runs at 1440p. It's worth noting that there are no additional graphics effects enabled for the Pro version of Uncharted, and keep in mind Uncharted The Lost Legacy DLC also runs at identical settings. Now, this is contrary to what Gears of War 4 is doing on Xbox One X.
And fully 4K, excellent texture filtering, super stable image.
Yep.
I mean,
Locked 30 FPS.
it was locked 30 frames per second, which, you know, that's perhaps the only difference between Xbox and the PC there. Aside from that, it looks just like the PC version running at the highest settings.
Now, John from Digital Foundry seems very impressed by the Xbox One X version of Gears 4. He seems to think that it's running at maximum PC settings at native 4K. And you know what? He may have a point. The game has been confirmed to be running at native 4K in the campaign. It's also been confirmed to be running at native 4K 60 frames per second in the competitive multiplayer, and the Coalition, the game's developers, have also confirmed several PC settings making their way over to the console version of Gears of War 4 on Xbox One X. This is very impressive. No matter what you're a fan of, this is worth commending.
Microsoft and Sony's exclusive fighters, Street Fighter V and Killer Instinct, go head-to-head, with Killer Instinct getting full 4K 60 support on the Xbox One X, versus Street Fighter V, with no PS4 Pro support despite it having a PC counterpart. Street Fighter V displays at 1080p 60 at 2 million pixels compared to the 8.2 million on Killer Instinct.
Alright guys, let's talk about Call of Duty World War II. We actually have zero information regarding Xbox One X, its feature set, and its pixel numbers for this game, but what we do have, thanks to a developer and a Gaming Bowl interview, are numbers for PlayStation 4 Pro. Now, they say the game runs at a dynamic resolution on PS4 Pro, and of course, if the developers come out and give an interview with information like this, it supersedes all other information from all other outlets. That includes Digital Foundry. So what the developers say is that it is 1440 by 1620. It can scale as high as 2880 by 1620, and of course, it is confusing. Keep in mind, this is not 2560 by 1440p. This is 1440 by 1620p, meaning it actually comes in just above 1080p on the Pro, and it will actually scale up to around what is going to be 1440p on the Pro. So, of course, as stated before, dynamic resolution. Now, my prediction for the Xbox One X is going to be somewhere around native 4K, and it may scale as low as 1440p. Just keep in mind that some of this could change, and it's also an educated guess, but ultimately, what you're going to get on the Xbox One X version of Call of Duty World War II is a far higher pixel density, as well as certain PC features like high bandwidth, high resolution textures.
Assassin's Creed Origins is looking to redeem the series from its 3-year slump, and having the team behind the fantastic Black Flag backs up this claim. Digital Foundry recently dissected the game on the Xbox One X. It is running at 1800 to 2160p using dynamic resolution, for frame rate priority at 30 FPS. The 60 FPS PC version of this game could never run on $500 worth of hardware. So it is impressive to Digital Foundry. AC Syndicate was patched to run at 1440p on the PS4 Pro. The PS4 Pro version of Origins has not been tested yet, but with the 42% advantage of the Xbox One X. The Pro version will most likely run at 1440p checkerboard or dynamic resolution scaling, a difference of around 3 million pixels on screen on average.
You frauds have only heard of 4K. I was molded by it. Now on to Rise of the Tomb Raider, an older title, but undeniably an astonishingly beautiful title at the same time. This is a well-known PC benchmark title, meaning it is very demanding for consumer hardware, and of course they pulled it off on consoles, it looked good. They pulled it off on PS4 Pro, it looked better. Now they've announced it for the Xbox One X, and of course, according to developers and Digital Foundry, this is going to be by far the definitive console version.
The trailer we have here appears to use the 4K native mode throughout most of its runtime, which, as the name implies, does increase the resolution to a full 4K. In comparison, the 4K resolution mode on PlayStation 4 Pro uses checkerboard rendering to reach the same pixel count. While the results are excellent on the Pro, there's an increase in image quality and refinement on Xbox One X. Everything is sharper and clearer here thanks to the improved texture work, which appears to be a match for the highest setting on the PC, and of course the better resolution.
Now, of course, we all want better visuals. Better visuals make a good game even better. And of course, I think that when people see the foliage, lighting, and other details in this game, they'll see an even bigger difference between the Pro and the Xbox One X versions. But what about the frame rate? The frame rate definitely had some hiccups on Pro. Is that still the case on Xbox One X?
Now, if you want a higher frame rate, there is of course the high frame rate mode, which again is not well represented in the trailer, but based on our experience with the demo, was very positive. We did, however, sample the entirety of the demo using this mode on Xbox One X, and the performance was very good. Now on PlayStation 4 Pro, the Prophet's Tomb area already ran close to a solid 60 frames per second, but there were sections towards the end where the frame rate dipped into the 50s. On Xbox One, these same scenes simply didn't drop. The entire chapter was 100% locked at 60 frames per second from start to finish.
Now this is pretty interesting. What it does is it tells us that an area that was CPU bottlenecked on the PS4 Pro is no longer CPU bottlenecked on the Xbox One X. And even though they do share an 8-core AMD Jaguar at 2.1 and 2.3 GHz respectively, the Xbox One X's additional CPU customizations such as lower latency, more L2 cache, and a DX12 command processor integrated into the GPU do make things more efficient. And that is awesome. So you should get more performance on top of your better visuals.
Middle-earth Shadow of War has basically been a joint effort with Microsoft Studios. It is also getting the Play Anywhere treatment for those that have a capable PC of running the game. Not to worry, the game will be running at high settings at native 4K 30 on the Xbox One X. No word on the performance of the PS4 Pro, but Shadow of Mordor got a patch for 80 to 90% of native 4K at around 1800p on the PS4 Pro. We can expect the same on Shadow of War, a difference of 5 million pixels versus 8.2 million.
Now this comparison is all about two big games hitting in 2017, Forza Motorsport 7 versus Gran Turismo Sport. Now Forza Motorsport 7 has already been confirmed and tested to death by Digital Foundry at 4K locked 60 frames per second, and that's great, especially considering that it's been confirmed to be running 4K assets from the PC version as well as other PC features on Xbox One X at that resolution and frame rate. Meanwhile, Gran Turismo is checkerboarded 1800p with little to no enhancements over its base PS4 counterpart.
So what are we getting here?
We're getting 1800p checkerboarding, so it's not native 4K, they're checkerboarding up to 1800p before upscaling.
And there you have it, as Digital Foundry's very own Dave confirms, Gran Turismo Sport checkerboards its way up to, keyword up to, 1800p instead of rendering natively at 1800p and checkerboarding up to 2160p like a few other games do. I suppose this is kind of unfortunate given the fact that you have no additional features aside from resolution on PS4 Pro. Whereas on Forza Motorsport 7, you're getting a lot of PC assets, you're getting PC features graphically, as well as 4K and 60 frames per second.
Bethesda and id Tech games always impress, and if you missed out on Wolfenstein New Order and Old Blood on the base PS4 and Xbox One, that game ran at 1080p 60 on both consoles. Wolfenstein New Colossus is slated to run at native 4K 60 with visuals indicative of PC according to Windows Central. Also, due to the increased memory bandwidth of the X, 4K assets and textures will be coming along with all of those pixels. The PS4 Pro version will run according to DualShockers, a PlayStation news site, likely at upscaled 4K 60. Another example of the X's 8.2 million pixels versus the Pro's 5 million.
So, as you guys see, the Xbox One X is definitely quite a bit more capable, and of course that's not just opinion. There are tons of developers out there speaking about this, and it's really great news. It's going to push the industry. Gamers are going to be more happy. They're going to get a PC quality experience when it comes to visuals on their console for the first time in history, and that's amazing, and that's coming from a console gamer as well as a PC gamer. Some of the benefits you're going to have are going to be very obvious, and when it comes to raw specs, as you see here, there are a ton of advantages when it comes to Xbox One X. Not only are you going to have a 50% faster hard drive, which is going to help with respawn and load times, you're going to have 60% more RAM for games, you're going to have a GPU that's well over 40% more powerful, and the CPU is clocked around 10% higher, but it is worth noting that you may get more than 10% worth of efficiency out of that 10% higher clock speed, if that makes sense. So lots of great benefits, and of course you've got the RAM to support high resolution textures as well as other graphic settings. Things are looking great. Keep in mind that a lot of this could change, but most importantly, keep in mind that those sources are down in the description down below. If you want to read any of the developer interviews or videos that we've cited or used, feel free to go watch them, go read them yourselves. We encourage that.
Alright gamers, this is Colt Eastwood. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. You can find me at Colt Eastwood. And if you want to talk to me on Xbox or on Twitter, I'm also there at Colt Eastwood.
And of course, if you don't know who I am, I'm Dealer. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, Dealer Gaming, or follow me on Twitter at Dealer_Gaming, do so. Of course, we provide content like this very often, console tech news and more. But be sure and check out those links down below and hit that like button, guys. Thanks for your support, and we're out.